What if you don't need to live in pain and suffering? What if you could give up your karma and have a life of abundance and joy? What if you could start creating magic and miracles that you never thought were possible? Get ready to listen, share, and experience the magic that is you. Now, here's the host of Creating Abundance with Ease radio show, Dr. Helen Gitlevich.
Welcome. I'm Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease, and today our show topic is intimacy with yourself, or having intimacy with yourself. How often do we look outside of ourselves for intimacy and love? How often do we confuse intimacy and sex and love? Let's talk about what is intimacy and what is love. Because up until I got to Access Consciousness, and I've been talking a lot about Access Consciousness and Akashic Records. That's the modality that I am doing right now, or facilitating, teaching it, call it whatever you want. But not until about 8 years ago, when I took my first foundation, I realized that intimacy has nothing to do with sex. That was an eye-opener. Because you can have intimacy with a friend, with a sister or a brother without having sex, without having copulation. Because we talk about 5 elements of intimacy. And when I heard that, it's like, what do you mean 5 elements of intimacy, elements of sex, elements of relationship, like breaking down everything into much smaller category, much easier to digest, but also something that is actually makes sense. And I'm like, wow. So what is intimacy? Intimacy is honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. As you can see, there is no sex and copulation. There is no love. And it's honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. Wow. How often we don't have that in a relationship? How often we don't have it with ourselves? And judgment is not having intimacy. It's not having honor for ourselves. Honor is actually treating somebody with regards. Honoring somebody means that we take care of somebody, and that somebody could be us. The topic today is having intimacy with yourself. So how often do you actually honor yourself, or do you honor others and take care of them with total disregard for your own well-being? Wow. What if you change that? What if you actually honor yourself? Would that honor other people? In my world, it did. When I started honoring me, it actually was more honoring for other people, because when we dishonor us, when we ignore us, when we ignore our needs, when we take care of others to the point where we cannot do anything anymore, and we are so exhausted, overwhelmed, and cannot deal with anything, are we of any use to other people around us? No. We pretty much become useless. And when we take care of others, totally disregarding us, we become resentful. We react instead of act. So remember the clearing statement I've used on a number of occasions? That's that magic phrase of right and wrong, good and bad, pack and pot, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds, that clears any limitations we have. So what if you destroy and uncreate anything in a way for you to have intimacy with you? What if you chose something different? Right and wrong, good and bad, pack and pot, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. What if you let go of the point of view that you have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. What if it's not necessary? What if you don't have to prove how right you are and how good you are by not honoring you but taking care of everybody and everything? What if it's not required? And more than that, what if it's actually harming you? And so everywhere where you're taking care of others instead of honoring you, and I'm not talking about not take care of others, because there are times when you're actually honoring you by taking care of others. It's always being the question, never being conclusion that you have to take care of everybody else before you take care of you. What if you don't? What if by first asking yourself, would it create more for me? What if that's honoring you will create more for others? Wow. And honor. How often do we actually shy away from that word? Because to me, always honor meant something in the army. You honor your surgeon, you honor your captain, or whatever it was, almost like a hierarchy of command. But what if honoring is totally different? What if honoring is basically be intimate with yourself and listening? Well, maybe it is a hierarchy of command, and you are the commanding chief, or what is a general in chief, or the highest ranking officer in the army. What if it is you, and you are the one giving out command? What if you are being the leader you are and honoring you in that respect? You actually can be aware of everything that's going on around you, and you can change the world around you. What a novel idea. Changing the world by being you. There is a book by Dr. Danair. Amazing book, by the way, and you can get it on Audibles now, and I believe he is actually the one reading the book. There are also some book clubs, etc. on YouTube, and you can purchase those on the shop and Access Consciousness. But let's talk more about intimacy. How much are you totally disregarding you? But also, we're talking about trust. What is trust? Again, there is so much miscommunication about trust, because I grew up knowing that trusting means pretty much a blind faith. And I gave that to everybody around me until they screw up. And then I withdraw it. Maybe not the first time, but the second and third and fourth. But trust is actually knowing that you or somebody else will do exactly what they did before. So if somebody cheated, they will cheat again. If somebody lied, they will lie again. It's that simple. You don't have to have blind faith that if you love them enough, then you can trust them, they will love you back, and they will not hurt you. You know, that's a fantasy. So how many fantasies do you have that keeps you stuck in a blind faith that's not allowing you to actually have intimacy with yourself, and by virtue of that, not having intimacy with others? Wow, a lot of energy on that. Will you destroy and uncreate that? Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, pack and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And by the way, that topic, intimacy, is part of Access Class Foundation. That is 4 days where we break down all the belief system and all the foundation of your life, where it actually creates something different, where you can start building on what's true for you instead of the lies of others. Because trust is actually one of the lies that people tell you. Trust me, I love you. How many times have you heard that? Yeah, I've heard that. It's not about that. Even if they love you, we're all people. We all make mistakes. And we are usually do what's natural for us. So if the person is nurturing, that person will be nurturing to you as well. But if they're an asshole, guess what? They will be an asshole to you. If she's a bitch, she will be a bitch. And yet, if you judge that person asshole or a bitch, nothing that will not match that judgment can come into your universe. And they will act towards you exactly like you judge them. They cannot change in your presence because you already judged them. That's not trust. That's just judgment. The idea is looking at everything for the first time. Looking at it, oh, interesting point of view. They lied to me right now, but let's see what will be next time. And yet, not having a blind faith because they love you, they will never lie to you. That's not what it is about. This is about being true to you. And same thing with trust to yourself. If you always abuse yourself, you cannot have blind faith that in the future you won't. You can actively choose something different and stop abusing you. And yet, you can trust that you can choose something that works for you. So, with trusting, it's about creating a different world for you. It's about having allowance. And if you have allowance, you or they can change. If you give up the judgment, people can change. So can you. And it's time for us to go on our first break of the show. You've been listening to Creating Abundance with Ease with myself, Helen Gitlevich, on Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we'll continue to discuss intimacy with ourselves and especially allowance for ourselves. And we'll be right back.
Many of us live our lives based on karma, on the past, and all the unfinished business in our lives. What would you choose if you did not have karma, or if you could choose what you desired instead? By tuning into Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to create the abundance in your life. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to have ease with creating abundance? Listen for Creating Abundance with Ease radio show every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to helen.g@att.net. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease, and today our show topic is intimacy with yourself. So before we went to break, we were discussing allowance, and that intimacy was honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. Those are the elements of intimacy. Has nothing to do with sex or copulation, and has nothing to do with love. And allowance has no point of view. We talk a lot about allowance in our previous shows. Allowance is just an interesting point of view. Interesting point of view, that person is lying to me. Interesting point of view that I'm lying to myself. And how often do we actually lie to ourselves? We are so used to people telling us, you have to tell the truth. In the court system, you have to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. And how many people lie in the courtroom? How many people lie, period? But we are trying to tell the truth to everybody else. And yet, and we think we are honest when we do that. Guess what? We're the biggest liars there is. Because we are the ones that lying to ourselves. How many judgments do you have of yourself? I'm fat, I'm old, I'm ugly, I did this, I did that. Oh, I'm such a loser, I've been stupid. All of those things are lies. Total lies. Yeah, you might did something, maybe it wasn't your brightest moment when you created something that doesn't work for you. But what if you be an allowance of that? What if everything in your life is something that creates awareness? But instead of awareness, we create judgment. What if that awareness can create something greater? What if whatever disaster you judged that is, or problem, and how often out of those problems actually greatest thing came up for you? Because for me, a lot of times something that I judge is awful, later on I realized was the best thing that ever happened to me. Or actually nothing happens to us, we create it, but still. Even looking at my life, when I had my open heart surgery, when I created heart disease, it kind of like at that time it was devastating. It was painful. I couldn't work. I couldn't do what I loved to do, to be a physician at that time. And yet it creates such an opening for me to be and do what I am doing now. And I'm so grateful for that mistake, problems, stress, whatever it was, that I've created totally different life for myself. So what if you stop judging everything in your life? Stop judging stuff as good or bad, and instead be in total allowance of what you did or created. What if it's that easy? Just letting go of your judgment. And what if by choosing that, you start seeing what's in front of you. And by having that intimacy with yourself, you can choose something greater for yourself, something that will create the abundance, the ease, the joy, the happiness that you always dream of, but kind of pushed away because you decided it's not possible in this reality. What if anything is possible? What if by creating intimacy with yourself, you can change and choose just like that? That was not my brightest moment. Interesting point of view. I have this interesting point of view. And then move on and just be gentle with yourself. Honor yourself for being who you are. And doesn't matter where, what, how, when you are. It just be honoring of yourself and be in allowance of that. Trusting that you can choose what works for you. Trusting you, trusting the universe, that it will create greater. And we can talk about the gratitude and we actually started because I was talking about one of the most difficult periods in my life where in the moment, of course, I judged. Of course, it was like, oh my God, how awful that is. And yet, I'm so grateful that it was there, that I created that. And maybe out of that gratitude, something else shifted and changed. Maybe that's what created more. Because I remember a moment in my life where I was in a lot of pain at that time after surgery, lots of complications. I couldn't move. And I was laying down and I was actually outside. It was summer, beautiful day. I was in a rental apartment where there was a little waterfall in the back. It was just man-made, but it was so beautiful. I realized that life is beautiful. Because up till that moment, I judged life as harsh and horrible and difficult, and I had to struggle and suffer. In that moment, I realized the universe showed me something beautiful. And I'm like, wow. That shifted. That allowed me to be in allowance of my pain and to be grateful for that moment. And immediately I felt trust that something different will be. That's what honoring yourself is. And things started shifting and changing, and I chose different things, which allowed me to get out of the situation where I was, which included a divorce. But in that moment, even that I didn't have access tools, I didn't have a lot of tools I have now. And by the way, you don't have to take classes, you don't have to do anything. It's just about choosing for you to be vulnerable with yourself, to actually have the 5 elements of intimacy just by being who you are and giving up judgment. That's what a lot of people call love for yourself. But a lot of people misidentify love, so we'll talk about love a little later in the show. Right now, I just want to concentrate on the intimacy, which, as I said, honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. And if you have those elements with yourself, you actually can create such an amazing life, because you will be aware of what's coming, what you need to change, and you can choose for you instead of against you. Because in this reality, we are taught that we have to do for others. But also in the Bible it says, do unto others what you do to yourself. And people always take the first part, but they forget the other part, to yourself. You have to be gentle with yourself as much as with others. You have to have intimacy with yourself first, and then you can be with others the same way. But somehow we forget that. Yeah, a lot of times we take care of others, but we are not. We are not taking care of ourselves. I know with me, all my life, I was taking care of my mom, was taking care of everybody pretty much in my family, my patients, my business. Sometimes I wouldn't even have time to eat. I remember a moment in my life, it's so funny right now. But at that time, I think it was very sad. I was in between the patients and I didn't have lunch. So one of my nurses was literally having my plate with, I think it was some kind of hamburger at that time or something was on the plate. And she had the fork with one bite on it. I had a chart in one hand and the phone in the other, and she was stuffing that fork in my mouth so I have something to eat. I have so much gratitude for the staff that I had, my nurses, my receptionists, and if they're listening to that show, just so much gratitude for you guys. And I love you because you allowed me to kind of like function in that reality, in that office. And with that, we are going on our second break. And you've been listening to Creating Abundance with Ease with myself, Helen Gitlevich, on Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we'll continue talking about intimacy, love, and sex and see what we can change in our lives. And we'll be right back.
Many of us live our lives based on karma, on the past, and all the unfinished business in our lives. What would you choose if you did not have karma, or if you could choose what you desired instead? By tuning into Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to create the abundance in your life. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to have ease with creating abundance? Listen for Creating Abundance with Ease radio show every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to helen.g@att.net. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease, and today our show topic is intimacy with yourself. So before we went on the break, we were talking about elements of intimacy and how is it different from love. Though some people would call it love and lump it together, because love, a lot of times, the definitions of love is like thousands of them. How often people say, I love you, pretty much when they just walk away. And what do they mean by that? Oh, it's just like, bye, I love you. Or in the chat, you would see, love you. Also, brotherly love, parents love to children, children love their parents. And again, there was a lot of expression. Like in Russia, there used to be an expression: if the husband doesn't abuse or hits his wife, he doesn't love her. So a lot of times abuse is misidentified as love. So a lot of times people cringe when somebody says, I love you. Because and even in the movies, you see, oh, that L word. Almost like the dirty word, F word. L word, F word. A lot of people misidentify that. So many of you misidentify love and fuck pretty much on a daily basis. So that's why intimacy is so important. That's why it's important to know the difference between love, intimacy, sex, all those elements. And as I say, we talk about that in Foundation. That actually will be coming up. Right now, because of COVID, we're doing it online, which works marvelous. I just did one in May and like in the beginning of May. And it was wonderful because you're actually closer with everyone. In the room, people can walk away, take snacks, but online, they have to be present. They have to be in front of you all the time. That's a requirement. They cannot walk away. Otherwise, it's not going to count. Unless, like, it's a bathroom break, but still, they can do whatever they want. So with intimacy, it's a different way of relating to yourself. Honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. We talk about the honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, but we haven't talked about vulnerability. Because a lot of people shy away from vulnerability with themselves or others because they kind of misidentify it as being a doormat. Because if you're vulnerable, people can hurt you. Actually, it's a total lie. If you're vulnerable, if you don't have any barriers, if you don't have anything protecting you, you become aware. You start seeing what's in front of you. You see any danger, any abuse that's coming, and you can walk away. Or you can create such a space where it is impossible. There is a difference between allowance and acceptance. Because, again, there is so much misconception. A lot of words have been misused over a long period of time. After World War II, there was a conference, actually, of linguists, philosophers, theologians. They decided instead of, because Hitler was able to use words as weapons for their vibrational meaning. And they wanted to prevent that from happening ever again. They didn't want anybody to have the power over people with words, so they changed dictionaries. Not that many people know about that, but modern dictionaries contain definitions of the words only the way they are used in the modern world. The original meaning of the word is hidden either at the bottom of the definitions or in the origins, if you go for it, or they're not even there at all. Such words like passion, which is a lot of people use it in their everyday life. I did use it. I was asking, because I did creative visualization. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's pretty much law of attraction. You do vision boards and you write affirmations and you ask universe to create what you desire. So I was asking for passionate relationships. How many of you do that? That's what you're supposed to have, passionate, hot. How many of you actually know what passion means? Well, with the movie Passion of Christ, it kind of became more known. But passion is crucifixion of Christ. It's suffering. It's not hot and beautiful sex. So when I heard that, I'm like, oh, shit. When I was creating passionate relationship, I was creating passionate relationship. Each one of them crucified me. Each one had suffering as part of it, maybe a big part of it. And everything that's coming up right now for you, would you destroy and uncreate that? Thank you. Right and wrong, good and bad, PAC and PAT, all nine shorts, boys, means, and it doesn't have to be true for you. If you love the word passion, please use it. Just be aware of what it means. And with being in allowance versus acceptance, acceptance is like, oh, he's abusing me or she's abusing me. I will be a good, holy, and kind and wonderful person, and I'll accept that. I'll be vulnerable, so I'll be a doormat. No. Being vulnerable and being an allowance is pretty much, if you do that again, I'll kill you. That type of energy is pretty much what allowance is. You can do whatever you want, but not to me. If other people allow it, fine, but accept that, that's fine. But I'm an allowance if you're doing whatever you want. Just fuck off. Not here, not now. It's about being true for yourself, to yourself, about yourself. Being aware, because when you're vulnerable and you don't have any barriers, you actually become aware of what's true for you. You don't have to hide behind the barricades of your suffering, behind the barricades of whatever you decided you can or cannot do, and behind the barricades of judgments. You can just be. And, oh, cool. I can see that clearly now. What's interesting, when I had all those barriers and was in acceptance mood, by the way, when I had the barriers, I was in acceptance mood. I was actually okay, so, because I did a lot of spiritual work. Don't get me wrong, I was doing a lot of prayers, a lot of meditation, I did chanting, I did a lot. I went to India on the spiritual journey. So to me, it was kind of like, yeah, it's part of life. No, it's not. That's where you don't have the intimacy with yourself, where you say it's part of life, it's part of my life, suffering is normal. It's not. Please know, suffering is not normal. It's actually for us, it's not about learning our lessons. It's about having experience in this reality, in this wonderful planet, and we can choose the experience. Because for infinite being, there is no suffering. It's just like the difference between us and animals or plants. The animal gets hurt. Let's say get tired. The owner hit the horse with a whip and then walks away. The horse is like, ouch, it hurts. And then it's over. It kind of, the pain subsides and the horse forgets about it, still loves her owner. Human, on the other hand, or humanoid, human being, whoever they are, if somebody hits them, and they're like, it hurts. And then the person walks away, and then they're like, oh my God, they hurt me. Why did they hurt me? And then they would suffer over the pain. And then they would suffer and judge their judgment. And then they would suffer over the suffering over the pain. And then they judge that how come I shouldn't be suffering over that suffering, but then they judge themselves that they suffer over the suffering, and it goes into infinite loop of judging themselves or suffering over suffering, and then it multiplies and multiplies, and now they hate the other person, or they hate themselves for allowing that, and so on and so forth. So how many of you are suffering over your suffering right now? Instead of just being vulnerable with yourself and being an allowance of yourself and honoring yourself, just getting out of the situation and just saying, oh, well, that was not my brightest moment. I chose that for what fucking reason? Let's move out. Let's do something different. Let's choose something different. Instead, majority of people will do the same thing and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity according to Einstein. Doing the same thing and expect different results. So what if we stop that? Stop that insanity. Stop that craziness and start having intimacy with ourselves. Start being vulnerable. Start being an allowance. Start trusting ourselves. Start honoring ourselves and being grateful. And I'm not talking just intimacy with ourselves, but also with our body. Because how often do we hurt our body? By judging it, by feeding it something that body does not like. And suddenly your body is in pain. But you're like, oh, it hurts. But you don't ask your body, what are you telling me? What's required here to change? What is that? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And if yes, how can I change it? And it's our time for our third and final break of the show. You've been listening to Creating Abundance with Ease with myself, Helen Gitlevich, on the Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about intimacy and love and how to create more of that. We'll be right back.
Many of us live our lives based on karma, on the past, and all the unfinished business in our lives. What would you choose if you did not have karma, or if you could choose what you desired instead? By tuning into Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich, you'll receive tools and inspiration you can use to create the abundance in your life. You are an infinite being with infinite choices. Are you ready to have ease with creating abundance? Listen for Creating Abundance with Ease radio show every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Creating Abundance with Ease radio show with Dr. Helen Gitlevich. To participate in the program, call in the U.S. 815-880-8255, Canada 613-800-8736, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to helen.g@att.net. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Helen Gitlevich on Creating Abundance with Ease, and today our show topic is intimacy with yourself. And before we went on the break, we were talking about how much we actually don't have the intimacy with our body. And again, it's about honoring. It's about trusting. It's about allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability with our body. But we were taught that body is not important. Soul is. In one of the, like I was taught in the spiritual modalities. But I grew up in Russia where body was it. There was no soul. There was no infinite being, just the body. And nobody cared about the body either, which is interesting. If body is all you have, it's material, and if you die, there is nothing, because that was a atheistic society. It didn't make any sense. It doesn't look like anything in this reality makes sense. So that's why I was looking for something more. I guess answers for the universal truth. But what I found, it's not about the answers, it's about questions. If you have an answer, you have just that. One answer, one possibility. But if you start asking more questions, the universe gives infinite possibilities. And same with the body. When we start asking body the questions, body, what would you like to eat? Body, what would you like to drink? Body, what would you like to have, to wear, or to have sex with? Body actually starts to communicate with us. And the idea is to have that vulnerability, no barriers with our body. I know with myself, I had so many barriers to my body because every judgment that I have is a barrier. Anytime you judge something, nothing that doesn't match that judgment comes into your universe. So the judgment becomes a wall that almost like impenetrable, a brick wall that's not allowing anything for you to receive. So if you have a wall or judgment between you and the body, how much can you receive from your body? And the body is knocking on the door saying, listen to me. You're not taking care of me. You're not honoring me. And you're ignoring it. So the intensity of that goes up. It's just like an 800-pound gorilla knocking on a metal door. And finally you hear it as a pain because eventually the wall starts crumbling because it's so much intensity in the body. So what if instead of having that intensity, having those judgments, what if we become vulnerable with our body? And all it takes is just a choice of asking the questions. Body, what are you asking of me? What are you telling me? And that's having intimacy with the body. And of course you can have sex with the body. Body loves sex. But that's apart from intimacy. You can add that. That would be fun. And we can talk about sex maybe next week or a week after. But right now, I'm talking about creating something different with yourself and with the body. And loving, and you can love yourself. But as I said, when you say the word love, there is so many misidentification and misapplications of that. What if instead of love you have gratitude for yourself? And by the way, there is a scale of emotions, vibrational scale of emotions, where you can see the vibrations of different emotions or feelings. And you would see emotions such as sadness, grief, they're very low, 2, 5, 10 maybe. But the vibration of gratitude is in probably 500. Joy is maybe 700. Universal love, the unconditional love that doesn't have the implants of what I was talking about, I love you or I love you. Those are extremely high level vibrations. They are not emotions. They are not feelings. Those are spaces of being. And so when we are intimate with ourselves, we actually start vibrating at those high vibrations of gratitude, love, and vulnerability, and creation. From that energy, we can create much more. And if you would like to learn more of those tools, you can join my classes. As I said, right now they're online. There is a couple of foundations scheduled. One on, I believe, 20th or 19th of June. There is also body class scheduled on 26th, which I'm hoping that Illinois will open up its social isolation, and I would be able to have the gathering of at least 10 people. I think they're opening it on 29th of May, which is 2 days from now. Also, you can join online. I'm doing How to Become Money workbook, which is 10 classes. It started yesterday, but you still can join. It's twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Central Standard Time, which is in Europe, I believe, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. or something like that in the evening. And you go on my website and sign up, and you'll get the recording of the first class, which was amazing. During the class, a couple of participants actually got calls requesting information from new clients. How does it get any better than that? And next week will be same time, same show, but the topic will be how to have more, not less. It will be talking about how to create a different life, different reality, different attitudes of receiving more in your life. So what, if anything, is possible by having intimacy in your life? What if you can shift and change? What if you can have more sex? And by the way, one of the definitions of sex is receiving. It's not just copulation. But what if you could have orgasmic life by just changing your attitude, by stop judging yourself? What if you could create abundance and more in your life, more of money, more of relationship, more of health, just by choosing the 5 elements of intimacy, by having honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability with yourself, with others, and especially with your body? What if you could have more of you just based on stop lying to yourself and trusting yourself and allowing yourself to be truly who you are without the judgments, and being grateful for you and honoring everything and everyone in your life, including your body. And we will be back next week, same channel, same time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Creating Abundance with Ease radio show. Dr. Helen Gitlevich will return next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have fun using the tools of the week in your life and start creating magic in your life